Hello everyone and welcome to our panel discussion about pivoting to addressable ads to uplift pay TV revenues. What are we going to talk about today? Well, highly targeted addressable advertising represents a significant growth opportunity for the pay TV industry. So we'll be exploring what is it all about, what are the tangible benefits for operators, and we'll also talk about some of the potential pitfalls and challenges. And of course, we'll discuss the best ways for operators to take advantage of these new opportunities. My name is Andy Waltenspiel, and I'm excited to be your host and moderator today. In my day job, I'm advising and challenging thought leaders and innovators of our industry to connect the dots. So, Daniel Church from Beachfront and Andre Bantu from Velocix. Hello guys, are you there?
Hi, how's it going?
Hey,
Andy?
great to have you here. Hola to Lisbon. Hello to the East Coast, New York. Great, guys. So before we jump into the topic, maybe please introduce yourself and your company. Daniel, you want to go first?
I'd love to. Thanks, Andy. My name is Daniel Church. I'm the head of advanced TV product at Beachfront Media. We are the convergent TV ad platform. We work with leading media owners, programmers, and distributors, including at the local level, to help them unify decisioning across TV platforms. So that means everything from making decisions, competitive separation, connections to the actual buyers, yield management, and pretty much everything needed to effectively monetize TV inventory from any source.
Cool. Thank you, Daniel. And Andre.
My name is Andre Bent. I'm the product manager for personalization and ad tech at Velocix. So at Velocix, we do video content delivery. We have solutions to store, stream, record, and monetize video streams. I'm the person responsible for our server-side ad insertion product, VPP, and we provide a solution for operators to monetize their assets.
Cool. Thank you for joining us here in this discussion panel or TV show. So I said in the beginning, this is a significant opportunity for the industry. So let's look at some data. So here we see some forecast from Rethink TV, who says that year over year, the expected growth rate for addressable TV advertising is at 33%. So, and that represents $85.5 billion. So it is a significant opportunity. But if you look at this graph here, you see the big blue, pinkish, violet, bars. Those are the biggest. So let's look closer at those because those are for connected TV. So let's go to the next slide, please. So this is another industry analyst. So this is from Interactive Advertising Bureau. And they say 73% of CTV ad buyers are shifting their budget away from linear advertising. So that means not only do we have a 33% growth year over year, we also see a dramatic shift away from linear towards connected TV. Sounds fantastic, but all these are forecasts. So, and the proof of the pudding is in the eating, as we say. So where are we? Where is the appetite of the buyers, means the advertisers, and where are we with the operators in this game? So what's the state of the nation? Daniel, Andre, who wants to go first? What do you see?
Well, maybe I can talk a bit about the numbers that we've seen and maybe try to provide some context on at least our interpretation of what we're seeing. So I think there's two major factors that are contributing to investment on CTV. One of them is consumption. So we do more and more consumption on OTT services. So it's natural that if the eyeballs are there, the advertisers also want to go there, and therefore the investment makes sense. The other point is the type of the inventory that we're looking at here. It's addressable inventory. So we can't compare. It's not like for like. Linear has some capabilities, addressable has some other, and the targetability, the data usage that we can have on addressable ads provides a different service that has a different quote. So I think that is perhaps the two main factors why we're seeing the numbers growing for addressable TV first, and on connected TV especially, because that's where the consumption is also going. Just from an adoption perspective, from the advertiser's point of view, I'll let you, then I'll provide a better answer on that. I'm sure you will. From what I'm seeing, I think the capabilities that we're seeing on the addressable TV space justify brands to want to have more accurate spending and better ROI on their initiatives, and that would be why a good portion of the market is embracing that type of investment. But Daniel, I know you have a way better view than I do on that front.
Yeah, I mean, you nailed it. So the advertisers are looking for actions. You know, they don't advertise for the fun of it. They want to get either their message out there, they want to get their brand associated, or they want to drive people to show up at the storefront. So when you're looking at the efficiency of addressable advertising, it's significantly higher than, you know, traditional TV channels. So, you know, even if you're paying $8 for spot linear, and you're buying quite a bit of that, and 20% is in demo for you, you know, you can spend $30 on the same, you know, CPM for connected TV, hit 100% of your audience, save money, and usually get better outcomes. So from an advertiser perspective, they're seeing a huge efficiencies. Now, there's still, you know, buyers that are interested in all of the above TV channels. But when you're looking at what is kind of growing the fastest, it's these efficient, you know, instantaneous ability to reach consumers. You can also rotate your creatives as fast as you can film them. So, you know, we see Ryan Reynolds, his maximum effort out there coming up with, you know, catchy answers to some advertising campaigns that he's able to ride on because he's able to film a spot in a day and have it live the next. So there's a lot of different reasons why addressable and connected TV is growing, but there's a lot of reasons why the brands are interested in some of these. Are just some of them.
Okay, great. So let's summarize just in a few keywords. Why has addressable advertising become such a hot topic amongst pay TV operators? What else is there?
Yeah, I can take that one first as well. So I think from an operator's perspective, I think operators are looking at the market, right? So the demand is there from an advertiser perspective. There's the consumption. So OTT providers, some of them or most of them now provide an addressable advertising solution, at least the ones that have AVOD. So operators want to catch the train, and to be honest, now is the time. So I do understand them. The other point for operators, the content costs that they have are rising, so they need a way to offset that, and then advertising becomes a hot topic because of that. Video is also fairly expensive to deliver, so I can understand why they want to offset that, even from just a technical cost perspective. And the capabilities are there, and the industry is ready. So as opposed to a few years, we've been talking about dynamic advertising for a few years now. I believe that the industry is way more mature today than it was a few years back. So now it's really the time to look into these solutions, and that's what the operators are doing.
Yeah, and the piping, so to say, is so much better than it used to be. I mean, if we were having this conversation 10 years ago, the infrastructure wasn't there yet. So now that a lot of this, you know, these operators have, you know, pulled a lot of the fiber through, it really allows for a lot of these, you know, increased efficiency operations, and that's what the people want. You know, they're looking for that on-demand, instantaneous. I want to see this piece of content, and that's now ready to be realized.
Great. So just so everyone is clear on the fundamentals, we're talking about SSAI, so server-side ad insertion. Why should operators go with that? Andre.
Sorry, I jumped the gun on that one. I'm passionate about SSAI. I'd say that from a technical perspective, it fits much better into a video delivery architecture. So I think most operators are looking into a solution that can last long and that can cover most of the use cases. You may want to start with VOD now because it may be easier, but on the long term, they want to have a solution that works for VOD, works for catch-up, works for live. And I think the best solution for that, the one that fits best with their existing architectures, would be a server-side ad insertion technology. As opposed to client-side, where you'd have a lot of logic that would have to come from your player. Server-side ad insertion can be transparent to a player from the most of it, at least from the video delivery perspective, and that's a major difference. The other point, if you think about client-side ad insertion for linear, it becomes really hard to manage it from the player side. So server-side ad insertion is the way to go. And we can talk a bit more about it and provide further justification. As I said, I'm really passionate about it.
I can feel that.
Even on our side, we see what has traditional been in the digital. A lot of this stuff that runs client side is running, either on a computer that's very powerful or an iPhone or an Android phone. So it was pretty standardized, and you kind of knew what you were getting. With the TV, you might have a powerful Samsung TV, or you might have a Roku stick that has a lot less. So there's a lot of variability in the quality and capabilities here. And TV doesn't, there's no mistakes in television. That's what people have been used to. This infrastructure for so long has just worked seamlessly. Velocix is right. The server-side ad insertion is definitely the way to go, because all of that is actually made ahead of time beforehand in these servers and distributed out. So you're taking that decisioning away from what may be an unreliable, insertion point to something that you can rely on.
Okay. So, good. Before we now dig deeper, we want to hear from the audience. So we have our first poll coming up. And the question is here, what do you think are the most challenging things about migrating to addressable advertising on TV, of course, right? So is it technical complexity, ROI business case, the rights to do the ad insertions, managing the personalization data, or is it gaining parity with legacy ad systems? So please just click the button that you think is the one that's most challenging, and then we'll get to it in a second. So maybe while the audience is voting, Daniel and Andre, what do you think, or what's your favorite? What do you hear the most?
I think we hear all of these. So these are all, very good questions to be asking. I think technical complexity, just because it's relatively new for a lot of these operators, is something that we hear a lot. But ROI is obviously always a consideration with any investment. What about you?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think technical complexity is at everyone's minds. I'd say that some people may have difficulties building a business case around this opportunity. They may be looking into it from older revenues, maybe from their QAM-based advertising, especially if you're in the US. There's some revenue already there, but they don't necessarily have the visibility of what the uplift would be. So building a business case that has the cost associated with it, but without a known revenue could be hard to do. So yeah, my bet would be either one or two. But I think we need to deconstruct these ideas as well.
So let's see what the audience is saying. So can we please see the results here? Okay. Interesting. The winner is gaining parity with legacy ad systems. So it's still question marks whether it really makes sense. While we see the other statistics or forecasts, 73% are moving away from legacy. There's still a big challenge here. Almost a third of people say that's a problem. Technical complexity business case on par, and rights and personalization data is not as important. Is there a surprise here with the legacy ad systems, or some more education to be done? What do you think?
No, I was just going to say that I think that it makes sense that we see relatively all of them have, close to the same amount of answers because they're all very, very important points.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's not a big surprise that we're seeing people wanting to gain parity. That's coming that's coming up on a lot of conversations. I'd say that it's important that the operators have an objective, an initial objective to go to, and this to me is telling me that that this is one of the first objectives that operators have, and it's a valid one. I'd say that there's other fish to fry, perhaps bigger, that should be addressed, and maybe we can talk a bit about that today.
Yeah, let's talk about, while we're at the challenges, what do you think or what do you hear has been holding back operators? What are the key things they are not moving or they're dragging their heels? What do you hear? Daniel?
A lot of what we just saw. So, understanding the content rights, managing personalization of data, and really gaining parity with what existing systems have been able to accomplish. The SSAI and the server-side ad insertion really accomplishes a lot of that because it's really brought about with the thought process of how do we make television distribution through the internet as reliable and on parity with what is existing systems. So that's how this was approached from that perspective. And I think we've seen a lot of accomplishments made in the last few years. At Beachfront, we're trying to give the flexibility that with that increased personalization data and others, content metadata, for example, and really being able to give the power to the programmers or distributors so that they can really control who sees what data, which buyers are able to activate on it, and work backwards from there.
Okay, great. So maybe we switch to, that was the challenges, but what is happening to really increase the adoption? So maybe the two of you, you're not here by chance, so what are you doing to increase adoption? Andre?
I'd say that from a technical, and picking back on the last question, it can be quite daunting to go from broadcast ad decisioning into one-to-one ad decisioning. From a technical perspective, just looking into that architecture, an operator may be scared of it, especially because the underlying service is something that you wanna provide really good customer experience, user experience on the video that is being shown to the user. So I understand the concern, and what my day-to-day job is to sort of prove we have the ability now to do so. And one of the ways to really provide that safety net to the operators is by having good partnerships like the one that we have with Beachfront, and making sure that we have good architectures and that we fiddle the paths between each other in a very tight way, so we can guarantee to the operator that the system will work well. We've been on the market for quite a few years now. We have some knowledge from the field, so we have increased certainty that we have a solution that is carrier grade now.
Great. And Daniel, from your side, what is there to add?
Our side, it's a lot of working with the buyers. So, this is the convergence of two pools of buyers: the ones who have been buying linear direct for a long time, and more digital buyers who have been used to transacting on digital inventory. So our adoption and the way that we try to approach this is try to get them to meet in the middle. It's great if we can find a new way to distribute TV and allow the big linear buyers to still transact in a slightly better way. But for these distributors, it's more advantageous that we actually democratize TV and basically get it in the hands of more and more advertisers. That's going to increase density. It's going to increase the amount of money that they can make. and the rates that they can charge. So, our goal is not to just, make it work. It's also to increase the amount of people who are adopting it, so that a lot of these smaller advertisers who may not have even, thought about buying, pay TV before are able to go in there and transact without, putting together a $10 million upfront.
Okay. So in terms of video and video delivery, everybody's talking about the cloud. Do we see the cloud also make its way into advertising? And do we see pay-as-you-grow models? Or is it still, I need $500,000 budget, otherwise I can't play? It seems there is movement here.
Yeah, that's a great point, and thanks for picking that up, Andy. That was one of the strategic moves that we've made on the product in VPP and Velocix in general. We do have a cloud strategy that goes across the company, and the main reason for that is, one, to make it way easier for operators to deliver video, and in our specific case, to monetize video. And the other main reason is to reduce costs. So when you think about ad insertion, it's a solution that needs to scale, and you need to be quite elastic. So you need your servers to be really ready when the break comes, and maybe not as much afterwards. So cloud makes a lot of sense, and that was why we made the transition. And we now have a cloud native product in VPP that is very flexible, can still deploy on bare metal, but cloud was a key factor for us.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So you mentioned partnership. Sorry, Daniel, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that, it's very similar actions at Beachfront. It's scaling up and down with the inventory availability is very important. And it's much more nimble. It's much quicker to roll out new servers and new countries and to really, be where the customer needs the infrastructure.
Okay. Talking about partnerships, I mean, there's you two, obviously, you're collaborating in a certain sense, so we might not have time to speak about the details here, but let's look at the broader picture. Are the stars aligning? Are people connecting the dots? Do the main actors now really more or less frictionless work together, or do we still have some way to go? Where are we?
I think we still have some ways to go. I mean, we're not completely there yet. I think it's accelerating very quickly. I've been working in some form of television industry for over 7 years, and I've seen more happen in the last 12 to 18 months than have happened the previous years. So I think people are finally getting it. I think it's a mixture of both a want and a need. It is basically something that is good and can drive additional revenues for distributors and for programmers, but it's just shifting anyway. So we're seeing a lot more people shift into connected television devices, and that really kind of we need to follow the eyeballs, and so that's kind of also driving it. And I think the pandemic also accelerated the fact that people are making those moves.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, and just to add to that, I think there's two components here. One would be like there's the partnerships that you need to do with companies that complement your product, or even some frenemy sort of relationships. We've seen a few of them, and I think that's quite good to see in the industry. But the other point is, I think companies are more and more creating solutions that are vendor agnostic. So you can just feed a piece of the puzzle. The standards are a lot better than they used to be, so you can just grab one solution from one vendor and it will be agnostic to the rest. And that's one of our focuses at Velocix, to be vendor agnostic and to work across any sort of architecture.
Okay, good. So the stars are aligning, still some way to go. We see huge predictions on the growth. So if I'm an operator and I want to go there, what are the key things I need to think about right from the beginning in order to avoid falling into some of the pitfalls? So what are the key things to take care about? Andre, you want to go first?
I think,
or Daniel, whatever.
You say one, I say one.
Okay, let's do that.
I think reliability is the first thing that you should be looking for in your partners. That needs to be the first thing. So I'll go there.
Let me ask you there. So how do I see?
I think that's a good.
How do I see reliability? I mean, you have a nice business card. You look sympathetic. So how do I know you're reliable? What are the tests I do?
You need to get under the hood. So set up a test. You can run actual advertisements end to end, at least from a decisioning server point of view. Again, like Andrew said, there's multiple different companies that are involved. So you need to also isolate them so that you can actually see, each individual partner and how they actually operate.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, or I think you had some nice logos on your first slide. Ask some of your existing customer how they're really doing. That always helps. Hopefully they say good things about you.
Always a proving word from a client.
Good. Andre?
Yeah, I think that reliability is a really good one. I think looking under the hood, checking the ability to handle scale and complex use cases at a carrier grade level is a good one to look at. I think that there's other general points from a business case perspective. So rights of showing ads against content is one of the first ones that you obviously have to look into. The architecture, how does that fit? What would be the changes required? Can you handle the scale? Those would be good ones. I realize that I've just said three. But yeah, I'd say those would be some of the key areas from our point of view.
Okay, so I think it's a good point to have some more audience interaction. So let's bring our next poll, please. Here, the question to you, ladies and gentlemen, is which approach to addressable advertising seems the best fit for you? We just heard about partnerships, still some way to go. Cherry picking maybe the right vendors, but somebody needs to put it together. So what do you think is the best way? So is it best of breed, open multi-vendor solution? Or is it have one company offer you a full stack, end-to-end single supplier? Or do you want to maybe fully outsource it even? So a statement I heard just recently from a big tier one saying, okay, we're good in doing TV, we're not good at selling our inventory. If that's the case, maybe you would want to go with a fully outsourced managed service solution, or whatever comes your way. Not open, you're open to all of them, or not applicable means you're not ready to go there. So please vote here. Let's give it a few seconds until we have people make up their minds. Daniel, Andre, I mean, you're positioning yourself as the best of breed, right? So unless I'm mistaken, is that the case?
Yeah, absolutely.
Best of breed for sure. I'd say we're looking into different ways of offering the solution, and I'd say we're quite flexible, both of us. I'm not sure if you agree, Daniel, but at least that's my perception. If I had to bet on what would be the one winning here, I'd have some difficulty. I'm really curious about these answers.
So then let's go.
We take the same agnostic approach to partnerships, as Velocix. So whatever our customers want us to use, we'll make sure that works.
Perfect. So the tension is almost unbearable, at least between the two of you. So let's see here. What is, thank God. Audience chose the right answer. They want best of breed, most of all, followed by fully outsourced. So a quarter of respondents says they want a fully outsourced managed solution. Interesting. And also still almost 20% want a full stack end-to-end single supplier, and 11 are open to all. Okay, so there is a point, because there is such a complex end-to-end solution to be managed and to be taken care of. A full stack single end-to-end supplier has a lot of things to do. So I think you seem well positioned with your best of breed approach here. So any more comments on this voting here from your side?
Yeah, I mean, I think full stack solutions are an approach to take. I think having the ability to do everything from advanced ad decisioning, working with buyers, all the way through to the infrastructure for SSAI is probably really expensive. I think you'll get a better return out of the multi-vendor solution because we each do things very good, but we don't necessarily do everything perfectly. And so having the ability to stack a few companies together and really, make a unified approach to it, I think is really honestly the best way to do it.
Great.
I'm really happy to see this also because it means that operators are willing to put time and effort on looking through these vendors and connecting a solution between multiple boxes. And I think it really shows the determination that some of these operators have against these type of solutions.
Yeah, and fully outsourced with revenue share makes a lot of sense for a lot of companies as well. If you don't have any sales infrastructure, there are options that, we work with Velocix and others to really produce something that can just be, taken care of.
Yeah, and apparently it is not easy to sell your own inventory, so let's not underestimate that. But there was a 6% saying not applicable, so they either want something completely different or not yet there. So let's maybe talk about those that are not ready to move. What's your advice to them? Should they wait? Should they educate themselves? What should they do? Or what should they not do?
I think, the worst thing that you could do is nothing. I think things are moving as they are. So honestly, there is a big advantage to be a first mover here. A lot of these pipes into the buyers are being set up and continuing to be set up. So the people who are there first usually have the best relationships with the buy side, at least from the yield optimization and inventory side of things. Being first at the table and having that conversation before others is always advantageous. So, I would really recommend that people look into these solutions because things are moving one way or another, and it's good to be early.
Yeah, and I'd say that there's a revenue uplift on moving into the AI. If you have an existing advertising source of revenue, that's probably QAM. So if you move into the AI, you get a revenue uplift. And if you have no advertising revenue, you go from 0 to something. And the sooner you do that, the sooner you see that something. And I think that's one thing that people need to have on the back of their minds. There's revenue to be made here. As soon as you step in, the sooner you see that revenue in.
Yeah, I would also say, as the convergent platform is really trying to make that as seamless as possible. We do support QAM systems, we support SSAI at Addressable, and we see the differences there. So if you have legacy systems, but do want Addressable and to take advantage of that, that's something that we focus a lot of time and we try really hard to solve that problem to make that transition as easy as possible.
Okay. Good. So, big message. You saw also in the beginning, there is a big market. So, the buyers are shifting away from traditional. So, if you want to move, rather move now. The time is now. So, talking about future, let's talk about your predictions. So, where do you think, what are 1, 2, 3 key predictions? Where do you think we're going with this, with advanced advertising on CTV? Maybe we can really do one by one. Daniel.
I'll go first, Sigam.
Okay, yeah. Andre.
No, I just don't want Daniel to steal mine, and then I get out of predictions to make. Now, I'd say that given the time and effort that operators are putting into these solutions now, I'd say that in 4 or 5 years, we would see, at least in the US, more than 70% of the operators having some form of the AI deployed. Maybe even less than 5 years. I'd say 2-3 years would have 70% or a big portion of the operators into the AI business.
So let's be careful not to confuse AI with artificial intelligence. We're talking about ad insertion here, right?
Yeah, the AI, so dynamic ad insertion.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, thanks for that.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah, if you count the number of advertisers who advertise on television today versus 5 years, you're going to see just an explosion of the amount of brands and advertisers that are taking advantage of TV as it becomes a little easier for them to activate. We've already seen that explosion start, but we think that in 5 years, I think we probably could say we could bring that down to 2 years with how quickly everything is moving.
So when we were discussing this panel before, you were mentioning a nice example, and I let you repeat it because it illustrates how much explosion we will have. So the one with you remember the one with the car agency?
And now I'm blinking.
Okay. So you said there was somewhere in Florida this little car rental agency with 12 cars, and
yes,
suddenly.
Thank you. So yeah, when we see a lot of advertising come through our pipes, I would say, and so we have I found one rental car company that was advertising. They had, I think, 6 cars on the lot, and they were advertising in a local market in Alabama. So, we're seeing, people who had never advertised before on TV actually get in front of those viewers.
Okay, so good. More predictions from your side. Maybe let's do more short term. Let's say what was going to happen within the next 12 months?
I think that example is really good, Daniel. And that sort of indicates that we're going to see a democratization of TV advertising. So previously, we've seen big brands advertising on TV. That requires substantial budgets. So, and the bigger the audience, the higher the budget needs to be. So when you start to slice and dice this inventory into smaller portions, that can go to a very small segment of users. Your budget can be quite less than what it initially would have to be. So you can have the car dealership in Florida advertising on TV, and but anyone really, and so anyone that has a regional business and that would want to go into a big screen that has a lot of attention and brand safetiness, that would be available to them as well. I predict that would be something that would happen way before this 5-year time frame, and I think it would be good for a lot of businesses across the world.
Okay, so most of our viewers today we think are from the US, but let's maybe also have a look at Europe. So US is always ahead, especially in these things. Maybe one prediction for Europe. So you said 70% in the next 4 or 5 years, at least in the US. What's your bet on percentage in Europe? Is it gonna catch up or still be behind?
I think that Europe has a lot of uniqueness. There's a lot of different regulatory environments that have made, television a little bit more challenging there as well. You also have multiple governments that operate a little bit differently. So, it's always been a little bit more challenging. The models are different over there, but I think a lot of this unification really allows, to surpass some of those challenges. So I think we're going to see Europe probably grow at a quicker rate just because I think we're going to see normalization across borders and probably pick up, quite nicely.
Okay, good. So I think we're good now. We have a few questions from the audience, so let's get to those. So we have a question from Michael McCluskey from Enchhouse Systems, and he asks, what sort of ad revenue change, increase or decrease as operators transition from legacy scheduled ads to DI? Do you have any examples, case studies that you can publicly share? Otherwise, you might need to get back to Michael. So what change of increase or decrease in revenue do you see? Are we talking 0 dot something percent, 5%, 10, 20? Any ballpark numbers you can share?
You know, from a price per unit standpoint, you know, you're looking usually in the linear markets, you're looking around the $8 per thousand, you know, views, and in the addressable markets, you're seeing 30 easily as an average. So I think you're seeing a significant increase because of the efficiencies gained, and also the costs are decreased from an advertiser perspective. So it allows them to also, you know, invest more money. Where 20% in demo on that $8, you know, again, you know, at $30, it's still an efficient buy if they're hitting 100% of their market.
Okay. But of course, you first need to enable addressable on all your devices and all your consumer devices. So it will take time. You can't say from day one you will have 4x the revenue you make today, right? If I go from 8 to 30.
Yeah, correct. Correct. So, you know, it does take some time to shift those over, but depending on the volumes that you're able to push over, you know, these are automated systems. So there's a pretty low ramp up to actually get that revenue adopted.
I think we lost Andre. So we have another question. What about recorded content? Can addressable ads work with cloud DVR? Daniel, is that something you can answer?
I mean, I'll throw it to Andre first. I've been talking a lot.
I'm not sure if can you hear me, guys?
Yeah, I can hear you.
My camera died.
I'm not sure.
All right.
Here.
Yeah, I can hear you,
I
Andre.
think my camera died. Good. Yeah, I just wanted to pick back on one of the initial questions in terms of value. I think one of the things that we missed was that we sometimes don't think about is that it's not only about revenue. The operators, the operators' inventory is also valuable to them. So they sometimes have an interest in upselling their services, and doing that in a targeted way has a value associated with it. So have a better ROI on the advertising that the operators do about themselves on their own inventory, I think is an important factor to have in mind. I must admit that I missed your question, Andy. So I'm not sure if you can repeat it.
So his question was about a DVR and time shifted, if it still works with this.
Yeah, it's a good question. It does, and I think it's a good revenue opportunity. So most operators have this DVR catalog that they offer to consumers. And if you look at this catalog and you think about digital services, if you think about YouTube, they sometimes can seem quite alike. And there's some crossing over. There may be monetization opportunities there from an SSAI perspective. So you can do pre-rolls, you can do mid-rolls, you can do post-rolls. You can schedule mid-rolls at specific points of a stream. So maybe there's business models there, and maybe you can offset some of the subscription costs to your subscriber by adding some ads. I think if you get creative, there's quite a few fun things that you can do with Cloud DVR for sure.
So sorry, I dropped. So hopefully you can hear me again. I'm back here. Good, I can see and hear you.
Yeah, I can see it.
Just by time. Okay, so we had already the question. You answered the question about the revenue change. I heard that. About privacy. Will you be able to guarantee 100% privacy moving from legacy setup? So we have GDPR and the equivalent in the US maybe soon. How easy or difficult is that to really migrate legacy systems?
Yeah, that's actually a really great question. You know, from our point of view, when it goes out to the buyers, we work really hard on making sure that you have all of those options. There's obviously a revenue potential depending on what you want to share. If you're able to make it fully addressable and they can use their own data, there's a lot of advantages to that. But if privacy is a very high concern, all of that information can be stripped out before it ever gets to any of the buyers.
Okay, so we're already running over time. Let's do one more question here. There's one from Arturo Avenda. Question is, what about the mix of the new technologies and what we still have in legacy system? QAM, first generation IPTV boxes. So question is there a way to get onto legacy that everyone has in their park? Basically everything that's deployed is legacy. Is there a ways to address those devices? And how?
Yeah, so from an insertion perspective, from a video insertion perspective purely, obviously there's going to be something that needs to diverge a bit. So either you're inserting an add-on IP or in QAM, the technologies that you'll be using underneath will have to be different. However, from a decisioning point of view, the system that is decisioning the ad for QAM and the system that is decisioning the ad for IP may be the same. The assets would be can be the same. The campaign information can be the same. And you're saying, Daniel, that your conversion TV product does think about this, and it's one of the problems that you're addressing. Maybe you can add to that.
Yeah, absolutely. There's differences in both systems. Beachfront, we have a robust cable VOD product that we work with several distributors on. We also do, QAM linear, which is inserted at the head end. There's uniqueness for all of this, but I can say comfortably today, the buy-side platforms can access it all through our pipes. There's different prices and different models, but you can look at it holistically today. But it does need work to make it as efficient as possible.
Great. Ladies and gentlemen, I think we have a wrap here. So, addressable advertising, fantastic growth. There's a shift towards connected TVs. Don't wait, start now. All the concerns you may have, you have competent best-of-breed vendors that can help you address it. So reach out to Daniel or Andre if you have further questions. It was a pleasure being with you here. Daniel, Andre, thank you very much. Muito obrigado. And everyone at home, thanks for watching. If you have questions, reach out to us. Otherwise, I wish you a safe and sound evening, afternoon, morning, wherever you are. Thank you for watching. It was a pleasure to have you. Thank you very much. Bye, Daniel. Bye, Andre.
Thank you.
Thanks.